The oryx is one of the most mystical antelopes in the world, often resembling a unicorn. The genus has four species distributed across the Middle East, Eastern and Southern Africa. Today, I am joined by Jacinta and Paul from the Save Beisa Oryx Community Trust in Kenya to discuss the conservation of the Beisa Oryx. Tune in to learn about this amazing species. So, welcome, Paul and Janita, to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on today. So, today we'll be talking about all the work you're doing with Oryx. And before that, it would be good if you guys just could give a bit of an introduction to yourselves and how you guys got into conservation and why do you guys like working with Oryx specifically?
Thank you so much. My name's Paul Edonga, and let me just start with my brief introduction, and then I'll give Jacinta an opportunity to do the introduction too. I was born in Kenya, northern Kenya, in Isiolo. I identify myself as an indigenous pastoralist, who I am, and I recognize that. And basically coming into Beisa Oryx, my life in conservation, my story, the story of conservation, my story of conservation dates back when I was young, where I found myself most of the times as a pastoralist. Our economic activities is taking care of livestock, or we are nomadic. And you find yourself when you grow, you take care of like cattle or cows. And I remember most of the times, depending on when taking care of the cattle and the livestock, you depending on the wildlife, depending on antelopes and the rest of the wildlife, in tracking for water, tracking for pasture. And one of my stories that I usually give is that once it happened that at the age of around 11 to 12 years, I was taking care of my father's cows. And this story always recurs in my life, and it has been a motivation to me in entering into conservation world. I remember while I was taking care of my father's cows, I drove them to River Ngaremara, one of the rivers around here in Isiolo. And it happened that during watering of these cows, I've been always been meeting with Beisa Oryx, this ungulate that we are talking about. By that time, there were many in the area, and this round I met this Beisa Oryx. Every time when I bring the cows, I found myself meeting with this Beisa Oryx. It was just a lone ranger Beisa Oryx, and I remember one of the trees along the river there had was an acacia tree, which every time most throughout the year they had, it was producing sort of these pods. And the acacia tree, those acacia tree pods are always, some trees have sweet ones, some trees have bitter ones, and animals and also us, we always eat these pods. And I remember in the process of watering the calves, and it happened most of the times when I bring the calves, I meet with this oryx. And we find ourselves kind of competing for the pods that are dropped maybe over the night in this acacia tree. And most of the times when we finalize, when all the pods are finished, the calves is that most of the times when I relax there, the same Beisa Oryx, it goes and takes water and also comes and relaxes under that tree. And I remember there was a time that I think I slept. I found myself sleeping, and I think the Beisa Oryx was around there. He was also around there. After competing for the pods, he went and took the water, and then he came back to this tree. And then I dozed off, and then all of a sudden, when I woke up, I found the calves had left. And trying to follow, I was looking for these calves. I was worried that maybe they have been taken because there's a rampant cultural rustling in these areas of ours. I followed the trail, following the footsteps. I followed the trails of the calves, and reaching to a place called the Sheba Mountain. The Sheba Mountain is a place named after the Sorova Shaba, where the Sorova Shaba now is, and there's a hill there that look, it's named after Sheba. And I remember I found the calves there together with this Beisa Oryx. Okay, cutting the long story short, later on in my future life, I was just most of the times reflecting about this oryx because it happened that during the 1980s, the same oryx was poached because what was killed after I recovered it, and then we took it home and trying to rescue it. It was kind of later on killed by poachers. And the same acacia tree was later, if you come to that spot now, you don't find that acacia tree there, was cut down by charcoal burners. This is a story that has been really recurring in my life. I've been reflecting about this Beisa Oryx, and it happened that in 2018, I was involved in an assessment with IUCN of assessing, together with KWS, Kenya Wildlife Service, of assessing after an uproar from us, after there was a lot of rampant poaching within this area. During those times, there was a lot of insurgents from even the countries, from neighboring countries. And so many people are really poaching these animals. And it happened, we did an assessment, and then the Beisa Oryx was listed among the critically endangered species. From there, slowly by slowly, I've been trying to promote, and then finding myself founding this book, which we'll talk about later, which currently I inspired. So that I cannot preempt everything, and maybe I can draw the ball to Jacinta so that she can introduce herself, and then we continue with the questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Director, for the opportunity. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacinta. I currently work as a trail and acacia tourist officer in Seabok. So talking about my journey to conservation. So my journey to conservation stems way back when I was still a child. I remember my mom would always tell me, Jacinta, you'll become an environmentalist one day, because I'll never want to see any litter around me. I'll never want to see anyone cutting down trees. And it will pain me so much seeing someone even harassing an animal. So one day I was watching television with my father, and he challenged me. He was like, you claim you like the environment. Look at how degraded our arid lands are. So if I were you, I will focus on a career that specifically deals with how we can be able to change our arid lands. And, I picked it up as a challenge to me. And along the way, most of my career has been in these degraded areas. Yes, we are not yet there, but I believe that we will be there one day. And yeah, that is why I'm here. We work as an environmentalist, as a conservationist, and I believe together we can. So briefly, that is my story. What inspired me to choose this career? What inspired me mostly to focus in arid and semi-arid areas?
So what exactly is an oryx, and how many species of oryx are in the wild? What makes the Beisa oryx different from other species?
Okay, so probably I can take up on that. So what is an oryx? So oryx these are large antelopes from the genus Oryx. They are often characterized by long spear-like horns, having a thick horse-like neck, a short mane, and a compact and muscular body. So they have a characteristics of black and white markings adorning their faces, but their coats always vary from color, from white to tone to fawn brown, as in Beisa Oryx, with only an exception of one species, that is the Skimta Oryx, which often lacks these dark markings on their heads and only has faint markings. They lack the dark markings on their legs, but have faint dark markings on the head as compared to the other species of Beisa Oryx. So they are often called true desert animals, and they can live up to 20 years in the wild and up to 22 years in the captivity. So as I had said, we have 4 species of the Beisa Oryx, of the oryxes, of the genus Oryx. Of the 4 species, only 3 are found in the wild. One is declared extinct in the wild, which is now the Skimta Oryx. The other species are the Arabian Oryx, the Jamesburg, and the Beisa Oryx, now that you are going to focus and talk on.
Thank you. Maybe just to add a bit of just to understand more about the Beisa Oryx. One thing that is so peculiar about the Beisa Oryx is especially in these areas, the Beisa Oryx, which basically is in 2 species. That is basically the ear-fringed oryx and the Beisa Oryx, which is the East African Oryx. They're particularly habitat are in northern Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia, and basically they form part of the trophy games. And oryx are culturally and ecologically significant, especially to these communities around here. And they symbolize resilience and adaptation in the face of harsh environmental challenges. As my fellow colleague Jacinta said, that they can withstand very harsh terrains. In a nutshell, we can say among the four oryx, we are basically as one, the Skimta owned oryx has already been declared extinct, as Jacinta said. But among the 4 oryxes, the critically endangered now, especially within the in situ conservation realm, is the Beisa Oryx. Back to you, Think Wildlife.
So, what is the conservation status of the Beisa Oryx, and where are they found, and what is the population?
Okay, so if they're allowed to take up on that. So currently, as the director said, the conservation status of the Beisa Oryx is declared or is listed as endangered by IUCN, and it has a global estimate of about 8,000 to 9,000 individuals. So when I take up the history of Beisa Oryx in Kenya, in mid-1990s, it was estimated that we have 21,000 individuals of Beisa Oryx in Kenya, which the population reduced up to 10,000 between 2011 and 2013. And in Kenya currently, most of these Beisa Oryx are found in Isiolo in a conservation called Nakuprat Gotu, which accounts for about 10% of the Beisa Oryx that are currently found in Kenya. And majority of these Beisa Oryx are mostly found outside the protected areas, and that is why they are always vulnerable to poaching and to more external threats. So I'll take an example of a survey that was done in Nakuprat Gotu in 2021. Only 814 individuals of Beisa Oryx were recorded, as opposed to 821 individuals counted in 2020. So you'll see that these species are on a decreasing trend from 881 in 2020 to 814 in 2021.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, we can say the largest remaining population in the world are found in 70% are found outside protected areas, and we can say, to be more specific, especially these conservation areas like the Samburu National Reserve, Buffalo Springs, Shaba Reserve, and also Meru National Reserve. These areas comprise very significant areas for conservation of this Beisa Oryx. Despite of that, we have some pockets of some populations in Aware National Park in Ethiopia, where we are getting contacts with them so that we can be able to get more information about their numbers. We have also some pockets in Kotido, that is basically at the boundaries of Uganda and South Sudan. And this basically is within the conservation status report that we will be submitting this year to IUCN so that we can be able to update their conservation status globally.
And what are the primary threats to oryx, and in particular the Beisa oryx?
Repeat that question.
What are the primary threats to oryx species around Africa and Arabia? But specifically, what are the threats to the Beisa oryx?
Okay. The primarily threats to Beisa oryx is basically habitat loss, the expansion of settlements, and also encroachment of conservation areas has really led to the loss of these, reducing the loss of Beisa oryx. It means that we are reducing grazing and breeding areas is one of the biggest threat. And I'm just giving an example of one of the areas that we are really feeling that is contributing to their loss is the acacia forest and the acacia forest and vegetation. The acacia tree is threatened by charcoal burning. That is intensive charcoal burning, and because of the 100% dependency of this local community on natural resources, some of the communities basically depend on charcoal. They cut trees and then burn charcoal and then sell them, which is basically a prevalent activities, a subsistence prevalent activity that is ongoing. And we are fearing that it is something that has not even ended up to date, and it is slowly changing into commercial. Even some very big conglomerates and also commercial companies have kind of taken interest in charcoal burning, especially because of the demand in urban centers. We are talking of growing urban centers in Samburu, like Archer's Post, like Isiolo, like Nanyuki, and also Nairobi. These urban centers are growing rapidly, and basically the demand for charcoal burning also is growing, meaning that the more population is growing in these urban areas, the more the acacia tree is being cut down. And this tree, one, is significant basically to the Beisa oryx because of their pods and also their flowers. And also within the areas where they grow, they always attract very good vegetation, which is pasture to these Beisa oryx. Last year we were able to do a small census of the acacia trees, and one thing that we discovered that among between 7 to 10 years of acacia trees who produce very good pods, we had from about 750,000 last year part 1, 2022. In 2023 we had only around 250,000. Approximately 250,000 acacia tree that we were able to cite and also identify, meaning that their numbers are really going down very fast. Sporadic. There's a sporadic loss of these acacia tree, which are basically being depended on by these Beisa oryx and also other vegetations around. And also the other one is poaching. Poaching is one of the threats to Beisa oryx because of the people target their awns. They target their hides. Their meat is being ranked among one of the best meat globally, and also their awns and hides are associated with this meat that they treat anxieties, they treat libido, you know, this kind of threats, this kind of myths that have been cropping around. And one of the things is that since the conservation of this other trophy wildlife has been stringent, like the gravy zebra protection has been stringent. You find that like, the African elephant, their protection also has been improved. The giraffe, the lion, and the rest. You find that the international poachers or wildlife traffickers have taken interest into these other animals that are not protected very well, especially the Beisa Oryx. And now you find that they use the local communities as intermediaries and also as middlemen to be able to poach for this livestock. That's another angle that they're taking. And you find that the weak enforcement of protection of these Beisa Oryx is turning to be a threat to them. The other thing is climate change, the prolonged droughts. Like in 2020 to 2022, we lost approximately that's about 10% of the protected population that is meant for in situ breeding. Within our 48 sites, we lost almost around 86 to around 100 because of the prolonged drought that had impacted the region. Then the other is human-wildlife conflict. That's competition between pastoralist livestock and Beisa Oryx for grazing land, often results in territory killing or displacement. And the last one is fragmentation. The populations of Beisa Oryx are isolated, reducing genetic diversity, and especially with increased vulnerability to diseases. That's why you find that in spite of their sensitivity to ecosystem, you'll find that they find themselves isolated because of their nature, their way of living. You find like if you look at the Isiolo-Kulamawe road network corridor, you'll find that is one of the corridors that we are designated towards a crossway for rerouting the movement of these Beisa Oryx from one habitat, that is from the Naku Plateau go-to conservation areas to Nyambene and Meru conservation areas, so that we can be able to give them the isolation, to give them room for diversity in terms of grazing. Yes,
So,
thank you.
talk about the Safe Beisa Oryx community and how the organization came into being.
Safe Beisa Oryx community came out of the inspiration. The first thing is the inspiration that I spoke about earlier on of conserving Beisa Oryx, which basically stems from the urgency to protect these critically threatened species, which is iconic to the pastoral communities of northern Kenya. As I had mentioned, the Beisa Oryx is not only vital for the ecosystem, but also holds a cultural and ecological significance for indigenous communities, meaning that it is an emblem, is emblematic, and also is an emblem, is an icon that has even taken charismatic role, a charismatic wildlife role for most of the communities around the Isiolo, Samburu, and Meru regions. As part as their arid ecosystem areas, the pastoral communities that share with their habitats feel like the loss of these Beisa Oryx will constitute towards even the loss of the livelihoods around the livelihoods of these communities. And you'll find that the species sharp population decline due to habitat loss, poaching, and climate change, as I mentioned, highlights the urgency. And in 2021, I took the initiative to pioneer a project under the ICN African Wildlife Initiative, which involved local communities in protecting the Beisa Oryx as basically a recovery action to be able to pilot some local indigenous actions to pilot them so that to see whether we can be able to recover these special special animal. And this project inspired the creation of Save Beisa Oryx Community Trust or Community Foundation, which became an indigenous-led conservation organization in 2022. And in 2023, we were able to be registered as a local pastoralist-led network for conservation of Beisa Oryx dryland acacia trees, and also promoting livelihood for local communities. And we kind of combine the ecological protection with the cultural and economic well-being of the indigenous communities that coexist with wildlife around the Iselo, Samburu, Meru conservation areas. And after pioneering this African Wildlife Initiative project in Nakuprata Go to community conservation, we were able to, after the end of the project in July 2022, we were able to, that is the time that the prolonged drought was really harsh. And I remember we did a stakeholders meeting with the local stakeholders involving KWS, Kenya Forest, NRT, together with other local organizations. And we were able to declare that we really need to have an autonomous mechanism that will be able to spearhead the protection of this Beisa Oryx, this special animal, so that we can be able to lead the process of enhancing the involvement of the local community in protection of this animal, and also promoting what we call social development for conservation, meaning that empowering these local communities' livelihood so that they can be able to kind of abstain from poaching. And in 2022, we were able to be supported by WCN, the Wildlife Conservation Network. We joined the mentorship program, and they supported us through a drought emergency project that basically scaled up the pioneering of these actions that we had already stipulated down together with NACPRA to go to community conservancy. And later on, we were able to form one of the largest networks of indigenous pastoral communities in conservation of Andersborg. And we define Save Beisa Oryx Community Trust as an indigenous-led conservation network of these ambassadors together with volunteers, which we are about now. We have about 859 ambassadors or volunteers organized in 48 self-help groups. We have around 15 scouts, that's civilian scouts, community civilian scouts, and also 15 civilian wildlife community rangers, together with a group of about 45 elites, leaders, and volunteers who basically help in coordination of these self-help groups together with these scouts and these rangers in ensuring that we engage the pastoral communities in protecting Beisa Oryx, improving their livelihoods, and also protecting this umbrella tree, this acacia tree that is so iconic also to both Beisa Oryx and also to the local community. We are currently now, this network was currently registered as a foundation trust under the Societies Act of Kenya. And we continue now to engage slowly by slowly the protection of these endangered species by ensuring that monitoring of the catchment areas is enhanced. Citizen science studies are being done, and also information is being shared to the world and also to the local stakeholders. Back to you.
What are some of the biggest challenges you face in your conservation work?
Okay, so one of the most challenges we are facing as an organization currently is funds. We are trying to secure funds through grants and proposals so that we can be able to fund most of our activities. And currently, what we are doing as an organization is just trying to raise grants, trying to raise awareness among the communities as we wait for funds so that we can be able to implement some of our activities. Yes.
Just to add on what Jacinta said, from funding gaps, Since the end of the foundation grant in 2022, we have really been struggling to sustain our programs, just depending on local contributions. And then the other challenge is insecurity in northern Kenya. Insecurity in northern Kenya, especially operations, you find that you find that at the end of the day, the basis of our program is basically frontier, meaning that the communities, local communities have to frontier. But if they are distracted by political instability and also inter-community conflicts, it means that the base of our work really is shaken. Since we do not have the funds to be able to respond or intervene on the projects, you find that our dependence on frontierism and ambassadors now is totally affected if political instability and conflicts are there. Then a bit of cultural resistance, but we are adopting to that. The new conservation practices, especially when they come around, you'll find that previously encouraging local community to adapt to conservation through respecting their traditions has been not a good norm that has been practiced by local conservationists. But you find that conservation agencies that have been there have not been really improving the local communities, and also local indigenous communities or organizations like say Beisa Oryx Community Trust really do not take the stem because of the resistance from the community that is being induced by these conservation agencies, that they do not want a new kind of conservation practice to come in place that involves the community so that they can continue taking advantage. But now what we usually do is our approach is new. We want to recognize and respect the traditions of these local communities. We want to involve them in protecting the Beisa Oryx, but those resistances are also slowly by slowly kind of fighting them through this network, this big network of pastoralist communities. The other challenge is climate change. Climate change, drought, and extreme weather events impact both the wildlife and also the local communities, especially their livelihoods. It means that during dry period and also during flood flash, we will find that poaching goes up. Poaching goes up because of lack of food and the rest. Lack of technical capacity. We are currently have very few technical experts, including Jacinta and I and a few others. You find that we are stretched in terms of technical capacity, lack of resources. We have limited resources to be able to advance training, monitoring systems, and the rest. Now you find that it's just only a few of us who are basically at the frontier basis, be Jacinta and the rest of 2 or 3 guys that are trying to ensure that the technical programming part of the organization is taken care of. But now you find that there's a lot that entails this, that it needs these resources to be able to be able to break through, and that's why we find ourselves in a world where we are trying as much as possible to send proposals, to invite people to support us and the rest. Back to you, link to wildlife.
So how are some ways that people can contribute to your organization?
Thank you. Some of the ways that we can be able to be supported is basically donations. We have been circulating our PayPal number, circulating our bank account information. And we are asking for financial contribution directly to support conservation and community development programs. Frontiering, we have been calling for partnerships and for frontiers, individuals around the world, around the globe, from India, from UK. If you have some expertise, some technical expertise, and you would like to join these ambassadors or join this team of ours to be able to support, we are open to that. We will also advocacy, raising awareness on Beisa Oryx, especially like this podcast. This podcast is very crucial in basically advocating for protection of Beisa Oryx and other antelopes, and also our mission as SMOC in the global network. I know that the Think Wildlife Foundation podcast like this one, will be able to raise awareness on our actions and our mission. And I believe that one can play one of the roles that how one can be able to support us is through those advocacies, through telling a friend about Beisa Oryx, telling a friend about smoke, telling a friend to support in the global network, and also sponsorship. We are really, an individual can support us through funding specific projects like reforestation. We have a tree planting project that is basically led by Jacinta. That we basically plant the acacia trees. We establish nurseries that we believe that they need. Right now they are a bit frozen because of lack of resources. And if we get some more funding, some more project support, we will be able to continue doing these projects. Sponsorship of wildlife monitoring. We have these scouts and these rangers who are basically doing their work at a volunteer basis. They have not yet been trained, but they have some specific skills on monitoring and data collection. But now we want to scale their skills to a level where they can be able to utilize smart connector apps, so that they can be able to use the Earth Ranger apps, so that they can be able to use the Global Watch Forest app in basically kind of collecting data and also disseminating information among the communities through the ambassadors who also need some training. We have a program of girls' education through the iPower Women Alliance that basically we are requesting also support to be able to integrate our gender program within conservation. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that. And what do you think is the way? My final question is, what do you think is the way forward for Beissa conservation? What can be improved, and what do you think are the next steps for their conservation?
Okay, thank you. Just to take up on that question. So what is the way forward for Beisa Oryx? So as the director has said, as we are seeking fund, we are also looking forward to raise awareness among the community members, because now we need to incorporate them as environmental stewards, because you can't work alone in this work. So we are really trying so much to raise awareness through campaigns, through restoration projects. We had a project where, like the director has said, one of the problems is expansion of settlement towards the protected areas. So one of the challenges is you find that we have so much construction going on, which will always have to clear the environment, to clear the protected areas, so that you can be able to pass road networks through the conservation areas. So you find that most of the workers working in these infrastructural developments are often not sensitized on how to take care of the environment, or they always ignore some of the measures, the mitigation measures that have been given. For example, you need to have an environmental impact assessment before you work on any activities concerning the environment. But you'll find most of these engineers don't put on the mitigation measures. So we as an organization comes in now to raise awareness, to be able to force them to implement some of the mitigation measures they have been told to implement in order to conserve the environment, in order to conserve the wildlife, because most of the road networks are passing through the corridors. So what do they need to do so that to protect these corridors, the wildlife corridors, to protect the wildlife, the environment, and all these? So the way forward is just to raise awareness among community members, to raise awareness among all the stakeholders, and again, to encourage everyone to join us in this tree planting exercise, so that we are able to expand our forest networks and be able to reduce the fragmentation in our forest or in our catchment areas. And we are also encouraging our conservancies to do the rangeland seeding, so that we're able to find, we are able to increase grazing spots for this Beisa Oryx.
Yeah. In addition, the way forward is that we really want to finalize pioneering and also piloting our recovery actions. Most of the recovery actions that we have been implementing, like monitoring like data collection, like catchment monitoring, catchment studies, or pollutionary studies. Some of the activities like ensuring that we have a recovery action plan that is basically that involves all the partners are yet in the process, and they need resources to be able to finalize them. As a collective and dynamic network of volunteers, we have a very big number of indigenous pastoral communities within the ambassadors that have not yet been trained, meaning that if we will be able to get some collaboration and partnership, we can be able to ensure that the 850 ambassadors have been trained, have been legally incorporated as a governance structure within the SBOC governance structures, and also so that we can be able to have that framework of ambassadors who can be able to advocate for wildlife, environmental awareness, and also ensure that they can be able to implement some social development activities. And you find that the rangers and the scouts, we have already employed the 15 scouts and 15 rangers. That is about 30 rangers that we want to employ them within an autonomous program of preventing poaching and monitoring the ecosystem and Beisa Oryx. They need now, we want to train them. We have planned in 2025, between February to March, we want to put them under a very rigorous training process that has been supported by a few other conservation organizations. We believe that already we have some promise from some organizations that they will be coming to train them on how to employ their skills within the community, because our approach is through the communities. We would not have this approach of having a separate camp from the communities themselves, or a separate conservation area. But what we have is that we work through the communities, through the plans of the communities. Like, for example, the rangers themselves, they are basically co-opted from the National Reservists. And this National Police Reservists have their own plans. And what we want to do, we always integrate our plans within their plans. And the scouts, the same case. Then we have school champions. We have women self-help groups that we are also supporting through enterprises. We still need support for plastic waste cleanup and also plastic waste projects that we want to implement. The enterprises, the conservation leaders program that we have for interns, like my colleague Jacinta Wanjala, she grew from this conservation leadership program within our program. She joined in, and also now she has taken a bigger role in spearheading conservation within our dynamic network. And in a nutshell, since we are taking SBOC is contributing to conservation not only through that, but we go beyond habitat protection to address systemic challenges. And what we have a very long-term framework of what we call the Indigenous Pastoralist Fund. That is a framework that we want that supports livelihood diversification, that helps communities transition from solely livestock-based economics to sustainable alternatives like ecotourism, beekeeping, and handicrafts. And also we have this framework that is this Indigenous Pastoralist Fund that will also provide microloans to women-led enterprises, bursaries for girls' education, addressing the systemic poverty and gender inequalities that drive environmental degradation. And you find that this Indigenous Pastoralist Fund, we envision it will become a capacitation fund that we are requesting collaboration from all local, international, and global partners to come and collaborate with us so that we can ensure that the TPF fund comes in, or the Indigenous Pastoralist Fund. Right now we have been given a pace. We have made a pace of establishing the Indigenous Pastoralist Fund. We have WCN, who have come in, WCS have come in, and also other global partners are coming in. And very soon we have already called the TNC. We will be having FFI and the rest who will be coming in so that they can support us in establishing this Indigenous Pastoralist Fund. That we believe that it will be a long term, a 10 years plan of action with about 10 billion US dollars that will be invested in Isiolo, Samburu, male conservation areas in one capacity building, Save Beisa Oryx Community Foundation. Secondly, bringing in the livelihood diversification project that is helping the community transition from solid livestock-based economies to sustainable alternatives. And also that basically capacity building now our local field implementation projects, because we are thinking of having a coordination center, local grassroots communities coordination center in Garemara. That already the plan, we have already made a plan, and we through this fund we will be calling for support globally to be able to establish this coordination center, which will have our headquarters, which will have our community radio room, that will have a coordination room of data collection, that will basically be having also a training center to train the local indigenous pastoral civilian communities on how to conserve the antelopes, on how to conserve the forest, and also how to be able to conserve the ecosystem to ensure they can be able to benefit and also the wildlife can benefit.
That was the final question I had for you today. Thank you so much for taking time out for this.
Yes, thank you so much. We can say that this one will be one of our memorable moments, including some of this year we witnessed the birth of almost like 14 calves in protected areas, and we were happy. From last year we had witnessed almost 2, 3, 4, but this year we witnessed almost 14. And we are praying God that these 14 can be able to survive to that level of maturity. And we are happy that Think Wildlife Foundation took a chance and took into it the opportunity to give us an opportunity to express our work, our efforts in conservation. We as I said, we do not work only with in conservation area, but we are also integrating gender issues into our conservation. That's why we have this I Power Women Alliance project, and soon we want to really establish SBOC as a trusted and impactful voice for indigenous-led conservation, not only in Kenya but globally. And I know that this Think Wildlife Foundation podcast is an opportunity for us to be able to establish it. I say thank you. I don't know, Jacinta, whether you have something to say so that we close.
Okay, thank you, Think Wildlife Foundation, for having us and for giving us a chance and a platform to express our views and just to raise awareness about our organization, and so that we can be able to get more funds, more partners coming in to join us, so that we can be able to conserve Beisa Oryx and our environment. And as the director has said, one of the most memorable moments is seeing the number of the Beisa Oryx growing, and also being able to see how enthusiastic the community members are in joining us to conserve the Beisa Oryx. One was telling me how they are happy that Beisa Oryx are not going to become extinct, and they're not going to tell their children our stories, because now they are seeing hope that this Beisa Oryx should still be there even in years to come. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.